We recommend this product be installed by a competent gunsmith.
Modification of your firearm may nullify the warranty of the firearms manufacturer.
No liability is expressed or implied for damage or injury which may occur from improper use or installation of this product.
You are responsible for the safe handling, legalities, and use of your firearm.
Warning: always wear safety glasses when working on firearms. For this installation, you'll need a 16th-inch pin punch, a starter punch roughly 3/32 inch diameter, a 3/32 inch pin punch, a pair of needle nose pliers, a roll of tape, and a small hammer for metalworking or gunsmithing. After field stripping your pistol according to the factory recommendations, we're going to remove the takedown lever first. You want to wiggle it and rotate it downward as you pull it out of the frame. Once you get it there, continue rotating it around, and we pull it out entirely. At this point, I want to throw out a caution. On the FN 509 and the FNS 9C, and only the 9C, the frame pins are removed from right to left and reinstalled the opposite direction. Punching the pins the wrong direction could permanently damage your frame, which is non-repairable. On the FNS series pistols, except for the FNS 9C, the frame pins are removed from left to right and reinstalled the opposite direction. Again, attempting to remove the pins from the wrong direction will permanently damage your frame. Next, we're going to remove the unlocking block pin, which is this one here. This is going to be the most difficult pin to remove, and you're going to need to use your stubby pin punch to get this one started. Lay the frame on a flat surface, set your stubby punch right on top and hold it down tight, and give it one good solid blow with a hammer. Once it starts, like so, you can use a longer pin to punch it through. With the unlocking block pin started, I'll set my frame on top of a roll of tape. I'll put that pin near the edge of the roll of tape so that I have the most support. I'll take my longer pin punch and I'll punch that pin all the way through. And this will be the most difficult part of the disassembly. There it goes. Using the 3/32 pin punch, I'll remove the trigger pin by pressing it from the right to the left. Sometimes it'll pop out with very little effort, other times you have to tap it lightly with a hammer. Next, we're going to remove the fire control pin. We're going to use our 3/32 inch pin punch to press that pin out from right to left. Next, we're going to remove the unlocking block by pulling it straight up and out of the frame. We will remove the slide lock lever spring and slide lock lever itself and set them all aside. If you happen to have a thumb safety model frame, when you go to pull the rear housing out, you'll notice there's a little tab right here at the bottom, right above the red, that houses the plunger and spring for the thumb safety. Make sure you don't lose those pieces when you pull it out. So be cautious, hold the housing together, and pull the whole thing up as one assembly. To remove the trigger bar from a thumb safety sear housing, I like to take the trigger bar and roll it all the way underneath the sear housing. This allows me to more easily disconnect the two tabs from the pin and remove the trigger bar. When disassembling the thumb safety sear housing, be aware that this little tab has a ball bearing and spring underneath it, and you need to be cautious when disassembling it. My preference is to put my thumb over the top and slide the thumb safety toward the rear and then remove it. Slowly release pressure and you can see the ball bearing and spring underneath. With the thumb safety removed, the ball bearing comes off easily, but the spring needs to come out of the sear housing for the remainder of the disassembly process. You may need to use a magnet or a needle to pull the spring out of the hole. There may be grease on the spring which acts as an adhesive to keep it inside, but I always remove the spring so I don't lose it. Next, we're going to remove the fire control unit and trigger bar assembly. So I'll grab the fire control unit and I'll pinch and hold it together so it doesn't come apart as I pull it up and out of the frame along with the trigger assembly. I'll set the frame aside and work on this portion separately. The reason we hold the fire control assembly as we pull it out of the frame, it has two halves, right side and left side. Those are held together by this little buckle. If you release that when you pull it out, things can come apart on you. To remove the trigger assembly from the fire control assembly, I'm going to hold the fire control assembly together. I will flex the trigger bar off one side of the pin, and then on the other side, try to do the same thing with as little flex as possible to remove it. The standard fire control assembly without a thumb safety has 12 components, with a thumb safety has 14. This is the non-thumb safety fire control unit we're going to disassemble now. This is the most complicated part of the installation as there are so many parts in it. Take your time, be precise, and back this video up and watch it step by step if you need to. The first thing we'll do is remove the fire control retaining clip from the back. I'll hold the housing together with my hand while I pull that clip off the back and set it aside. From here, I'll release my thumb pressure off the spring-loaded cam pin, turn it over, and dump it out of the frame along with its spring. To remove the sear carrier spring pin, I'm going to take my needle nose pliers, I'm going to pull it off to one side and pull it right out and set it aside. We're going to separate the two halves of the fire control assembly by pulling one side off and removing the sear carrier assembly from the other half. Next, we're going to remove the upper sear carrier pin by pulling it most of the way out of the sear until it just pops out of one side. The sear will slightly tick. From here, you're going to rotate around, and you can take the lobe of the sear, push it around the edge of the sear carrier, and pop it up to relieve its spring tension. We'll rotate the sear up, pull the pin out, releasing the sear and sear spring from the mechanism. At this point, we've completed disassembly of the fire control unit, and we're ready to begin reassembly with the new Apex sear.